Hello everyone, how's it going? This is Trans Joy Boise and our first pilot episode. My name is Bonnie Violet. I'm a trans femme genderqueer spiritual drag artist and digital chaplain living here in Boise, Idaho.
And I'm Pacey. I am a trans mask non-binary person, and we're really excited to get this going.
So freaking excited. We've been working at it a little bit today even.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
It's
part of the process. So bear with us, folks. This is our pilot, so here we go. So today we wanted to really focus on honoring, healing, and rising a Trans Day of Remembrance special. We're right on the eve of Trans Day of Remembrance, which is like November the 20th, and it's just right around the corner.
Okay, so November 20th is Trans Day of Remembrance, and it's an annual event where we take time to remember. Fuck, I'm gonna redo that.
You're fine.
So November 20th is Trans Day of Remembrance. It's an annual event where we take some time to remember the people that we've lost to suicide and violence in our community. It's usually a pretty somber event, of course, just because of the nature of it. But we are putting on an event this year that is going to be really great, and we're excited to tell you about it. So, you want to tell us about it?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I think, Trans Day of Remembrance is like a big day of like grief and loss centered around trans and non-binary folks, and obviously we need to have space for that, and so that's what we're doing. But we're also kind of adding a little twist to try to see if we can do something with the grief and the loss. So we're trying to transform it with fire.
Yeah, like the idea that we're using is similar to something that you would see at Burning Man. Because I've been to several events for Trans Day of Remembrance, and they're all beautiful, like in their own right, and very moving, and of course, very heavy. And I don't want to take away from, how serious this is and how important it is. But I want to also be able to celebrate of course the joy, right? But the positive, and have us all come together as a community, especially now after, everything that happened last week.
Yeah, well, and I think like a big thing is the thing that I love about this event, like, because Trans Day of Remembrance, it's heavy, it's a difficult thing. But I think the thing that I like that we've done, like we did with the march and that we're doing now, is we're really trying to find ways to create movement within everybody who is at the event. So it's not just like going to an event and listening to someone speak or watching something. People are actually going to get to engage with the temple and be a part of the burning process. And so hopefully it feels like more of an experience than kind of something you're going to go and watch, which is great. But I think it's kind of exciting to think that we can do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, that's a really good point. For this, it's definitely interactive, and we've put a lot of effort into making it that way, because you're right, like we want people to feel like they're involved, but mostly I just want people to feel like they have a community and a place where they fit in, because I know right now the fear is palpable and the tension is just, I know every day I'm hearing more things on the news that are just absolutely terrifying. And one of the things that helps me the most is being around people that I know can relate to me. And even in something that's heavy like this, I think it's an opportunity to help bring us together, because I feel like that's one of the only ways for us to really move forward.
Right.
And this event, it's a giant pillar made of wood, and should we explain that now?
I mean, like, it's a pretty pillar. One of the things I wanted to say was, like, I think in kind of part of the process is we're actually building the temple, and so I think for me, one of the things that's been really great is that, the election happened, and there's been a lot of turmoil, and a lot of our community is upset, as they should be, right? But I think sometimes what's been helpful for me is to, like, we're like met with devastation and destruction, and it's been really great to like respond with creation. And so like getting together with a handful of folks and just starting to nail shit together and that sort of stuff has been really kind of a nice action to take, just to have, again, to take action in response to something that's happening, but then also I think to be able to just be surrounded by other trans people and people who love us and non-binary folks has just been really great.
I agree, and it's like the whole experience so far of building it has been ridiculous and so perfect for, like, it represents a lot of the trans struggle, I guess. We started out with this open facing structure, and it looked really good. I mean, you can see some of the pictures of it on our Instagram and stuff.
And if we get fancy, we might put it up on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. We totally could. And it was looking really good. It was enormous, though. I think that was one of the problems, was it was too big. It doesn't matter because it blew away. There was a windstorm, and it looked like someone just tore it apart. So we kind of had to refocus, and our burn permit wouldn't allow that large of a burn anyway. So we kind of refocused, and Caden, who's been helping from Gardens of Xanadu, has been just a godsend in this.
So great.
It's a pillar, and there are all of these like shelving, like shelves, and we're going to encourage everyone to come and interact with it. Like, you can post pictures of people you've lost or write things on the walls, and we're gonna have a box inside with just like a slit in it so you can put in like anonymous letters. And then on the day of, we're gonna burn it, like the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing that's kind of fun in kind of describing the temple a little bit more, it kind of reminds me of like a fort you might make when you were a kid. You know, not to like belittle it at all, but it's been playful. At least for me, it's kind of reminded me of like kind of the building I would do as a kid. So it's kind of like tapped into that inner child a little bit. So we're like, you know, and it's like probably about 18 feet tall, right? Because it's like 5, 10, maybe 15 to 18. Maybe once the butterflies are on top. That might not be that big. Sorry.
Maybe like
internet
13,
maybe,
13. But it is like a fort, but dangerous. Like, it's a giant, like an octagon shape. And it's really stout. Like, it won't blow away in the next windstorm, but when you go inside, because I had to climb up the inside of it to put the shelves on the very top pillar of it, and there's like nothing in there. It's just like I had 2 2x4s to stand on, and if I missed, like, I was probably gonna break my legs. But it looks nice.
It's hollow, but it looks great.
Yeah, it looks fantastic. So
right, and so what we're doing is, so we're actually now it's almost completely done. You know, right now we're painting it and adding like the last little like polish, if you will, in preparation for people to begin showing up this Thursday, which will be November the 14th. And we'll start opening the temple for people from the general public to come and interact with it. And so what does interaction look like for the temple?
Well, we're gonna have probably our last community. I think we're gonna need one final community build day, and that's gonna be this coming Wednesday, so the 13th. And
what time would we do that?
I would say probably 11.
11 to 3-ish.
Like 3-ish, yeah. I think that would be good. And it's mostly just the final steps, you know, just really polishing it, like you said, making sure everything's painted and looking nice. And when we have it open to the public, interaction is going to look like, you know, coming and bringing pictures, maybe of people that you've lost. You can write things on it. You can write the letters, like we said. You can come and just be a part of the community. But also, we have these wooden butterflies that are absolutely beautiful. Gorgeous. And we are selling those, and you can buy one of those, you can paint it, you can do whatever you want, and then the night of the burn, we're going to burn those as well. And we have, you know, one of those for each of the people that we've lost this year. So I feel like just about anything that you would feel appropriate, like maybe you could even draw something, you could paint something and bring in transfix it somehow. I think as long as it's appropriate and, you know, we could burn it safely, I think that it would probably be okay.
And we'll have some materials there for folks if they didn't bring their own, you know, like we'll have some like materials that you can engage with to you know, to participate in some way or the other. It's going to be interesting to see how people do engage with the temple and maybe what they bring, or, you know, and I know that some folks have been like, well, does it have to be all about trans people and non-binary people? And I do think it's important for us to center that, but I also don't think that it would hurt that if you were grieving a grandmother or a close friend or someone else, why not bring that grief along with you? Because I mean, grief is that way. Grief, you don't get to like suss out one thing and put it aside. You know what I mean? It's like it all kind of comes together. And so if folks can utilize this as a time to, you send a message to grandma, or you know, your childhood friend or maybe your puppy, you know, like,
absolutely.
like it's totally appropriate to do something like that. But we'd also just kind of want to center trans and non-binary stories. So even if maybe you don't have that personal connection, you could still come engage with it with your own personal grief. And then we can also, you know, on the day of the burn, we'll go through and talk about like the lives that have lost, not only in this year, but I think we're also going to spend a little bit of time on specific Idaho stories of folks who have died over the last few years, just to kind of like bring a little light. I think oftentimes we hear about these trans violence, especially like these big murders, you know, things like that. It's like Idaho doesn't make the news for those that much, but we all know trans and non-binary folks are no longer with us for a number of different reasons. And so we want to spend some time and create some space for that as well.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
I think that's a really good point. I know that there are several people that I'm going to be, you know, I'm maybe not getting butterflies for each of them, but there, you know, there are a lot of people that I'm going to be remembering that night. And, you know, not all of them were trans or non-binary, but I'm trans and non-binary and I'm grieving. So I feel like it's fitting.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and I think part of it too is like there is a lot of like grief and loss in just being trans. So even if it doesn't end in like violence or death, it's even just the fact like, you know, transitioning, you know, I've had to grieve the loss of all my relationships, all of my family dynamics, like who I was, like my social settings are all different. Like, you know, there's just so much grief and loss. And so I think really creating space, I know someone had talked about how they're actually going to bring like photos and images and things of them before their transition as a way of kind of like burning and letting go and honoring, you know, the person who got them to where they are today.
I think that that's really powerful, and I want to, you know, really encourage folks to do the same thing with like the writing of the letters. Maybe writing a letter to your past self or something like that. I think I would probably be doing that too, because there is a lot of grief when you're mourning the person that you used to be, and all of the, especially with how difficult it is to be trans, you know, there are a lot of sacrifices that we have to make with like our physical and mental health that, you know, a lot of time we don't even realize that we've been making those sacrifices because it's just normal for us, it's every day. But when you talk to someone else, you know, maybe someone who is further in their transition, or maybe someone who's cis, and they're just like, that's a lot, that's heavy.
Yeah. So Pacey, why are we burning it? I know like we've been doing some posting on socials and somebody's like, okay, so why a temple and why are you burning it? What does that have to do with Trans Day of Remembrance?
I think it's just so powerful to be able to just absolutely give something away like that. There have been so many times in my life when there were things that really held a lot of power over me. And like, for example, this is a ridiculous example, but when I was in high school, I used to have really, really bad panic attacks, like really bad panic disorder. And I would always, I wouldn't always, but I thought I did. Every time I wore this one t-shirt, I would have a really horrific panic attack. So I was like, I'm gonna burn this fucking t-shirt. And I did, I burned it, and I even buried it, and I felt freeing. Like it felt like it freed me, like I no longer was carrying it on me, because there's just something, I think, innately almost spiritual in burning something and just releasing it and just sending it back. And I think that it's a really beautiful and powerful way to let go of things, but to also honor things.
Yeah, well, and I think it's about, you know, I think especially when it comes to grief and loss, one of the things that is helpful, you know, for a long time, it's really hard to think about the person you lost recently or the situation without thinking about the negative aspects of maybe how they died or that you lose them or miss them. But at some point in time, part of the process, you have to get to where you can remember the person and you remember the good things. You remember what they would be telling you if you were in the room right now. And it takes a little while to do that. And hopefully this like ritual or practice or this action that we take will begin to help people get to that process, so that when they think about a person who they've lost, who is just so painful right now, that maybe they can get to the point where they can think about that person and be like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this, I could, like, they would tell me to do this, and they would encourage me, and they'd slap me in the face and say, come on, bitch, like, you can do this, you know?
Absolutely.
And so, but it's hard to hear that from people sometimes when they're gone. And so, but I think there's a way that we can do that, and I think this is a really great activity. And it doesn't have to be spiritual for everyone. Like,
no, of course not.
But a lot of spiritual, I think, you can look at a lot of spiritual history and traditions and see that burning is a very common practice around grief and loss, and kind of letting go of things that aren't any good, so that new things can be rejuvenated and rejuvenated. Is that a word? It sounded weird coming from my mouth, but hey.
No, it is. I just want to add on that really quick. I had a really good friend, someone who is incredibly dear to me, who is trans, named Trevor, and I'm sure there are some people in the community that remember Trevor very fondly. Probably the most beautiful person I've ever had the privilege of knowing. And he passed 4 years ago from cancer. And since he passed, I have kept a journal where I just write letters to him, because sometimes the only person's advice that I feel would really get me through something is Trevor, but he's not here. But when I really get in that mindset and I'm writing and I act like I am writing to Trevor, I can imagine what he would say. And sometimes, exactly like you said, he'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, come on, you got this, you can do it. And I just need to get in that mindset. And I can't, you know, I don't know what happens, right? None of us do, but I think the idea of just burning something and sending it to wherever he might be is comforting to me, because I miss him. You know, I miss him every day. So I think just having an opportunity to really remember these people and do a tribute is going to be really powerful.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about it.
Me too.
Is the excitement the right word? I think
maybe not, but I'm excited.
Yeah,
so.
no, I'm eager. I am eager to kind of like go through the process. Yeah. It's been nice that it is a process of like the building and you know, the coming together, and then there will be like, you know, the final like celebration, and then you know, we still have to like, we're gonna end up like we have to tear down the temple a little bit before we burn it, because the bitch is a little too tall.
It's too big, yeah.
So we have to cut her down a couple notches before we light her up.
Yeah. But that's gonna be beautiful too. I think I'm excited for this to happen, and I know it's gonna be nice when it's done, just because it's been so crazy getting everything set up. But I know I'm gonna be sad when it's over, because it's gonna be a really good time.
Definitely. Yeah, so kind of getting back to, you know, like how folks can get engaged is we are going to have the temple open, you know, this Thursday, the 14th through the 20th. And so we have some set hours. You can check in the link in the description. They're not like always the same. So, but we'll list them for you so you can figure it out. And basically what we're going to do is have different community organizations show up during those time frames and be there to help engage with the community. So it might be service providers to help connect you with, say, housing support or community aid, or maybe even spiritual support, or we also have a class.
Yeah, on it's gonna be Sunday, the 17th, I believe. We're lucky enough to have someone in our community or an ally, I guess, who teaches martial arts, and he is going to donate some of his time to teach a self-defense class, because I know a lot of people are nervous right now and afraid for their safety, and it's like, we should be. I think most of us have had really scary incidents, and it feels a little better to at least be prepared. So that Sunday at 2 p.m., we're gonna have a self-defense class. He's gonna have all of the training supplies and stuff, just so we can, you know, come together as a community, but also maybe feel a little bit more prepared, just because things have been feeling so scary lately.
Yeah. So if you are a community organizer or part of a group and you want to reach out to the community, this is a great time to interact or connect with them or reconnect. Just reach out to us, and we'd love to let folks know when you're going to be with us, and so folks can get connected with you. Come by and participate. I mean, they'll still also be able to like come and like maybe paint something on it, or you know what I mean? Like it's gonna, we have the whole week to continue to kind of like build on this. We're gonna have the bulk and like the main things done by Thursday, but you know, we're wanting the community to participate and add a little of their own, little of themselves, character,
absolutely.
to it.
So stop by and you can buy a butterfly, you can paint it, you can paint on the structure itself, you can write something, anything. You can just hang out with us. We're going to be there all week.
There's a coffee truck.
Oh yeah, there's a coffee truck.
So we'll have
Constellation coffee. And it is really good coffee too. Yeah. Very fancy.
Mm-hmm.
So
dress warm, dress for the weather. It is an outdoor thing, so think about that.
Mm-hmm.
There will be lots of fire the night of, but it's still going to be cold. So
and after there's going to be like a dance party at Xanadu, because this is being held at Xanadu.
Yeah. There'll be fire dancers. There will be some ceremony and activity happening. It's not like we're just going to stand around like a bonfire.
Yeah, exactly.
Bring marshmallows. No, I'm joking. Some people talked about bringing marshmallows, which why not?
I mean, maybe.
It sounds a little sacrilegious, but I think it's
I
fun.
love a s'more. Yeah.
I think anything that comes to our mind that we want to do. I think it's kind of like when we were talking about, like we all deal with grief differently. So, humor, all that sort of stuff is part of that. It kind of reminds me of when we did the march, and there was an individual who came up to me. They were like walking around, and they were like, because they could write a message on the flower for somebody, and they were like, "Can I write 'Don't do it'?"
Oh yeah.
And I think they thought it was maybe a little morbid or a little dark, or they thought all the messages needed to be about like, you can do it, joy, yay. And it was like, and I was like, no, like if that's coming to your mind right now, share it. Like, because who knows who's going to get that message, and that might be exactly what they needed to hear. Sometimes we just gotta put things out into the universe and trust that maybe it's going to be helpful. And I think they might have done them some good to write "Don't do it" as a message to themselves. Because how like sometimes I have to write things down for it to really gain, like, to lose the power in some of the thoughts that are in my head. And so I remember thinking after they walked away, like, I was like, I wonder if I should go find them.
One thing I just think it's important to distinguish right now is, like, this isn't a religious event by any means. Like, I'm not religious. So when we say spiritual, like, we're not meaning religious.
I'm not religious either.
Yeah,
though I might pass as one sometimes.
Well, but like for me, I got a little bit more into spirituality after I did ketamine therapy, and so I say it a little bit more, but I don't ever mean like religious, because that's something that I know, especially within our community, there's so much religious trauma, and like that's not the case here. We want you to be here. It's like if it was religious, I probably wouldn't want to go either. So I just wanted to make sure that that's abundantly clear, because that's not what we're about. Well said.
I think that's great. And we hope that you all will come out and join us this week, and also keep an eye out for future episodes. This is our first one. It's a pilot. We really wanted to try to get something out in time for Trans Day of Remembrance and our event, as a way to kind of like tell people what it's all about, because people had a lot of questions, but also for us to get the ball rolling and being a regular space where people in Boise will come to learn a little bit more about and get more connected with the trans and non-binary community.
Absolutely. I think that you said that perfectly. We just want to be a resource, and if you have any questions or any potential topics you would like to see, just like send us a message.
Maybe even if you want to be on the show.
Yeah, exactly. So, because we're just getting started. This was a nightmare to get everything figured out today.
We're in my living room.
Yeah.
But hey, you got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
All right. Well, take care, everyone.